I just want to take a few minutes before we address the public, just to make sure that there's a response. Good day, colleagues. I am sorry for the delay. Technical problems as usual. Today's topics are just part 5. What is to happen to our sector during COVID-19? The second wave of relief funds by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Cultural Creatives Master Plan, how to revive the industry. The return of festivals, stages, events, shows, and theatre protocols, the collection of databases and the purpose thereof, the application of funding through the help of the Federation, Solidarity Fund, the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package, discussions and clarity-seeking channels towards the Tap Federation. Good day, colleagues. My name is Mnisi, the President of the Tap Federation. On behalf of the Tap Federation, I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. It is an honor to represent and stand by this creative sector that has been patient throughout the 5 months of the lockdown in order to always put its members first. And thank you again for respecting the regulations, and till today we have not heard of a widespread that has been caused by a stage or a choir in practice. A special greeting to Mapostola, Tappers, brass bands, associations, forums, councils, supporters forums, promotional companies, studios, production companies, events and entertainment companies, vendors, and most importantly, leaders of the industries. We respect you and we welcome you. Thank you again, leaders. Let me first give thanks to our mother body, CIFSA, Cultural and Creative Industry Federation of South Africa, and our partners in development, which is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, SACAIF, SAMIC, SAMSA, House of Crew, TAPASA, and many more others that we were respected and have made this federation grow today. Thank you, leaders, and we continue to do that. Just to explain our stand, we do not represent the government to the Tap Federation, or to the members of Tap, or to the choirs. What we represent is the entire genre of the Tappers, the communities and the businesses that trade in Tap, to the government, and we represent them to the private sector, the other way around. So thank you for the Department of Arts and Culture to always call us into engagement, which puts us on the first table to say now we can have issues and ideas coming from Tap that needs to be addressed and taken into consideration. Leaders, we thank you and we welcome you to always engage with us and help us shape our industry. Thank you very much. Long ago, when we started the federation, what we wanted to know was how do we get involved and how do we make sure that Tap is not just taken as a hobby but taken as a business. Somebody commented when we started the organization to say, finally, the business side of Tap. Leaders, we respect you and we accept that you've put in this trust on us. Let me also give thanks to other organizations that are outside the Tap space but are always investing in Tap. So say, please do that and help us grow. The most of the young people getting out of Tap to create their own talents outside Tap and to stand as soloists and everything else. You guys have been helpful and you've been growing this industry. What we want to see is an industry that creates employment and is able to also affectionately and impactfully put money into the economy of the country. Thank you again. All protocols observed. Now, the dawn of growth and recognition of the Tap industry has reached our shores. It has been 5 months since we consciously took a decision to a united decision to have an organization that will stand for us on issues of national importance, and most likely our liaison where government and business is concerned. After the country's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, announced a lockdown for all industries and all activities in the country, most of the companies considered that as a death sentence. However, the Tlepentep community, it was a tough awakening that showed us that we have less or no representation in the issues of national importance. That is why we had to have one umbrella body that speaks on our issues, not through assumption, but constantly communicate and consult our leaders. We have been receiving invites in meetings with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture since the 3rd of April and until recently with DG Vusi Mkhize to speak on ideas on how we could open the creative industry to trade, actually to revive the economy within the Tlepentep and other industries in the creative sector. Reviving the economy and the creative contribution to the master plan of the creative sector by the Department of Arts and Culture, which will shape the future of the creative sector and our ability to create employment, contribute to the economy, and actually make sure that we matter in the growth of this country. We took the first step in addressing the need for an active and inclusive voicing of the needs of the pandemic in early April. Since then, we have grown our COVID-19 support structures through WhatsApp groups, social media pages, social media groups, Twitters and other social media platforms that allowed young people to speak about what they were doing and their frustrations in us closing the sectors, or in the government closing the sectors. We understand that not only formal artists that are practicing art have been losing money out of this lockdown. Our stages have been the most source of income for the Tlepentep choirs, meaning the production companies have stopped working, meaning the entertainment companies and promotional companies have stopped working because of the rules of the lockdown. Yes, we understand that sometimes we are not on the same level and some of these choirs are on grassroots, but we also wondered and pondered if this information can get to the people in the rural areas. Now that the Federation have gone to a point that we have choirs in the rural areas that we don't think they access information on Facebook and everywhere else. So we will expand our communication strings into creating groups on Facebook and groups on WhatsApp where we can share this information. Even this recording will be shared, and also the post or documents thereof that speak exactly about this. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've indicated topics of importance earlier on, maybe what is mostly frustrating for all choirs and choir leaders and members right now is what does level 2 mean for the Tlepentep community? Actually, we will try to break this down so that it's easy for everybody to understand, but at the same time it allows for interaction, because what we're going to say here is not cast in stone. It's still in negotiation with the government. Thanks for the open door policy that they've created, and thank you for DG Mkhize who've allowed to participate in matters of industry leaders. We can all admit that this pandemic has forced many organizations to change their mindset and maybe rethink their vision. This also means we can never continue to think it's business as usual, as those who will fail to adapt may be left behind and may be losing out of business. Restrictions in any event are still kept at 50 people per event with all regulations observed. So none of that has changed. The restrictions still stay the same. This now means choirs can start their rehearsals in preparation of new projects. That includes but not limited to online shows, recording and online launches. Yes, choirs can open, but there's also restrictions that need to be done. Online shows are permitted, online projects are permitted, recording in studios is permitted, doing other ways of interaction in terms of technology and other social platforms that you guys can use, maybe creating websites and making sure that people are logging to your website to watch your show. Yes. The only challenge with online shows, they do not represent stages because they do not become the only source of funding. And for online shows to grow at that pace and make sure that they can fund a choir, it means we need to reach a certain standard that is set by the social media platforms. Those platforms would be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and other platforms that allow for online shows. For us to host those online shows and make sure that they are meaningful contribution, we're gonna have to stand up and like each other's pages, subscribe to channels, so that mostly or everybody can reach 1,000 subscribers and have a bigger online listing. This now means performances with audiences, stages, or festivals can be permitted in theaters only, since they will have all the safety regulations in place, such as 50% admission, quarantine room for anyone showing symptoms of COVID-19, a COVID-19 officer, dedicated COVID-19 officer on site, sanitizing of the venue regularly after every show, after every interval. The lockdown restrictions may have been lowered, but the pandemic has not been lowering its reach. The lowering of the restrictions is to open up the country for economy, so that the 50% workforce that the country has lost during closing down and lockdown may be revived due to this opening of the economy. But brothers and sisters, let us warn you, COVID-19 has not lowered its restrictions, has not lowered its risk, and it's still there, and it's still out there and taking many more lives. The lockdown, the exclusions are still no stages in community halls, as their numbers will exceed 50 people per event. How do you count 50 people per event? This is inclusive of the people on stage and the audience thereof. That is why we are advising you to consult organizations that we are in partnership with, or any other national organizations such as TAPASA, which is Theatre and Production Association of South Africa, or our partners in development, which is SACAIF, SAMIC, which is South African Music Industry Council, or CIFSA thereof, which is Cultural and Creative Industry Federation of South Africa. That is the mother body that governs every organization or every performance that is under the Department of Arts and Culture in terms of creative industries. Also, our advice is that all choirs need to work closely with theaters, as we explained, but also work closely with the Federation, as we can therefore submit any queries that you have to the Department of Arts and Culture, and also speak in one voice and speak on behalf of the industry, because we understand our artists do not rely solely on the funding or performance activities. We understand that also our artists are not really paid directly by the choir, but should there be any choir that practices that, it should not be segregated or find itself in destitute because it was not covered for. We do not by any matter assume that we will generalize issues when speaking to the government or private sector, or vice versa. This is why we've opened channels on Facebook, so that we can engage with the sector and engage with everybody else, so that everything that we speak is not only from the perspective of the Federation, but on the perspective of the entire industry, whether a signed up member or not. Now that we've said the rehearsals and practices can be opened, these are just the following issues that make sure that we are all complying with the law. At the same time, we are all protecting our members. On rehearsal or practice rooms, please make sure you have one dedicated room or a small place dedicated in close proximity of the practice workshop, that will be able to be isolating those who will show symptoms of COVID-19. If you don't have a dedicated room or dedicated space next to the rehearsal venue where you will isolate those who are showing symptoms, then you might end up be putting your choristers to risk. We urge you again, we put this upon leaders to say, protect your members by making sure that you practice everything that we are suggesting from the Federation going forward. Put measures in place that make sure that there is adequate space amongst your members during practice and performances online. Make sure they're not close together, because we understand and we are speaking to the gender that has given birth to us, and we know it's really difficult to sing with a mask on. But let us not be blatant in our mistakes and make sure that we are not following the rules. Let's at least open space amongst members when we shoot, at least when we shoot videos and stuff like that, at least 1 meter apart. That can suffice, because everything can be prevented from then on. We are not saying this is a foolproof plan, but we are trying to work with the government in recovering our sector and making sure that we stay active. Make sure your choir has tools to test for temperature upon entry every day when you come to practice. You have sanitizers in place, first aid kit in place, at least 2 people who are dedicated as respondents or officers of COVID-19, and with the likelihood of having an experience with using first aid kit or responding or intervention methods should there be a symptom or an outbreak being shown during practice. Constantly monitor members' background. If there was any case detected, if there was any detected from home or workplace, then please have that member or that particular person, if it's an audience, have them quarantine for 14 days before re-entry to the choir. Please work closely with Klep and Tap Federation to fundraise for online shows, sending an application for a program or a project. All applications and proposals have now until the 31st of August 2020 to apply to the Department of Arts and Culture, and help will be made available through the Klep and Tap Federation. In Free State, the director is Mr. Susani. In Western Cape, the director is Mr. Kachi. In the Northern Cape, the director is Mr. Mwerani. In Mpumalanga, the director is Mr. Paul Mota. In Gauteng, the director is Mr. Patrick Brakip Monareng. In Northern Cape is Mr. Enoch Liteho. In Limpopo is Mr. Slide Mabocha. Am I leaving any? In Eastern Cape, and then in Western Cape is Mr. Amos Kaji. Then in Eastern Cape is Mr. Ngeba. All those are directors of every province. We've made sure that we've covered every province. The only province that we have not covered as the Klep and Tap Federation is the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We have not detected any choirs, but if there's any choirs, please help us so that we can reach the rural areas. Now, the other problem with applications, now talking about Solidarity Fund, applications coming from the Department of Arts and Culture and BASA and NAC, most of them, they are online, meaning not every member of a choir can reach those applications. We are urging associations, councils, forums, and every structure that exists under the Klep and Tap community to also help those who cannot apply to go and apply online. You can go to the www.dsac.gov.za. That is the website of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to get all these application forms. Now going to the Solidarity Fund. The Solidarity Fund has made available 1,000 vouchers per province to help with food parcels, or those vouchers can be equated to monetary value. Those vouchers are at 700 rands per person. They will be made available through the Solidarity Fund. They are not vetted by the Department of Arts and Culture. Now, who qualifies for those vouchers? Anyone that has not applied before, or anyone that is not receiving any funding or help from SASA grant or from any Department of Arts and Culture, or that is not employed. Mostly, that is also focusing on people who rely solely on monies made from arts and culture, monies made from performances, or monies made from their craft. So that has to be your primary concern, and that is your primary reasons. Please do also approach the Klep and Tap Federation to help you further with that. The Presidential Stimulus Fund, that is where we are being placed in all this the COVID-19 relief that is on the second wave. We, the choirs and bands and other theaters, have not been covered on that. We are excluded from that. However, we are included on the Presidential Employment Stimulus Fund that we need to apply for directly after this. It is also closing on the 31st of August, if I'm not mistaken. That is a place where you guys can fundraise for online shows, projects, recording, talk shows, everything that we see on Facebook. That's where you can send a proposal and say this is how you want to create employment. Of course, you need to have all the compliance documents in place and show your activities and how they will run, the objective they will meet, time frames and all that. Yes, again, do approach the Clap and Tap Federation to help you with those documents if you do not have any. And other application methods or criteria of qualifications, they will be explained therein and broken down further. Now, again, when you apply for Solidarity Fund or the presidential stimulus, please make sure that you have your proposal in order, and nothing has to go through the federation. But it is better if the federation has given you a recommendation letter and have given you a unique number that you belong to the federation or have been sent by the federation. These applications that are coming from the government, or these funding that are coming from the government and Solidarity Fund, they are not only for members of the federation, but they are all for artists in different sections, artists in choirs, production companies and everybody else. We have stand firm and have always represented you, so make sure that Clap and Tap is always on the table for discussion. We are not seen as that secondary phase. Today we stand here to say we have opened a group on Facebook that is called the Clap and Tap Federation, and in brackets is written discussion group. That's where you guys can pose questions, send topics, or post your shows and anything else that will create a positive vibe within this genre. With that being said, Banabesu, we are ready to accept questions. We are ready to accept ideas on how do we then reopen the creative sector to working under these conditions. Most likely what the federation wants to focus on basically is how does the sector create employment and make sure that we stay active even under these conditions. By the way, we are born through these conditions as an organization, and we continue to strive under these conditions. But now that there's cross provinces, we can travel cross provinces and all that, it means now there's more collaboration spaces for you guys to actually make more projects that are impactful, creating jobs and expanding the economic market of the country. Thank you, leaders, thank you, members, thank you, supporters, thank you, organizations that are registered, thank you, organizations that are striving to register, thank you, organizations that has just been formed as of late, and thank you for organizations that have always existed. We look up to you to give us direction. The organization is not on autopilot. It is led by your suggestions, by your critics, by your comments, or by your questions. We are here. Please tell us what then next to set up. As an announcement, today, me and other leaders are also having a meeting with MultiChoice based on airplay and other virus sectors that you guys have been complaining about or wanted to improve. We are giving you also a task to say, have a collaboration or a program that you want to propose, and then we'll send that message forward. All our job is to make sure that you guys have income that is coming directly to you without taking a percentage. Let me repeat this. The federation will not take a percentage of any of your proposal or any of your tasks, because the federation exists for one purpose, which is to grow the industry. Thank you again for watching this. Please send it throughout the country. Make sure it gets to the people who do not have a chance or a device to watch this. We'll also send a document that is describe exactly what I have spoken about on this, and we welcome further engagement and meetings now that the country is open for economic participation. Thank you again. Thank you, leader.